Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Perla Martinez. I serve as the DEI Administrator for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and I want to welcome everyone today to our Second Chance Month and Lunch and Learn. Um, this month, April, is Second Chance Month, and this month was started, and I think it was initially celebrated in 2017 in a nationwide effort to raise awareness to the collateral consequences of criminal conviction and unlock second chance opportunities for people who have completed their sentences to come back into society. We really here in Franklin County want to become advocates for second chance and reentry month and reentry week, um, promoting activities to raise public awareness, encouraging everyone to become a second chance employer, just like Franklin County is. And right now, I want to welcome Director Ruchelle Pride and Director of Programs Tim Richardson. And you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we can get started.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Perla. My name is Ruchelle Pride. I'm serve as Director for our Franklin County Board of Commissioners, Office of Justice Policy and Programs, and our court-appointed Special Advocates of Franklin County. I'm so happy to be with you both today to talk about Second Chance Month. And so I will pass it to Mr. Richardson to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I also would like to thank you, Ms. Pride and Ms. Perla, for inviting me to this forum dealing with Second Chance Act. I am the program manager of UMADAOPFC Franklin County, which provides many programs and events out in the community. We also have family programs. We have back to school programs, youth camps. So I'm glad to be here with y'all today.
Thank you both so much for your time. So we can start and just, how about you tell me a little bit about your organizations, your offices, and how do they support justice impacted citizens?
Absolutely. So the Office of Justice Policy and Programs serves as the criminal justice planning agency to our Board of Commissioners for our community. We focus on strategic planning. We focus on making sure that we are doing justice effectively and efficiently through data-driven decision-making, consultancy, offering technical assistance, and really galvanizing our justice ecosystem, our partners, our community around best practices to ensure justice is truly just. And so we do a lot around reentry. That is one of our biggest investments and most proud investments because it shows a level of intentionality and importance in making sure that reentry is exactly what it is designed to be, which is an opportunity for individuals who have been impacted by our justice system, who have been impacted by incarceration, for them to have an opportunity at not just a second chance, but sometimes it's a third, fourth, or fifth. It depends on each individual circumstance. It depends on what the need of the person is. So we listen to not what we think is best for an individual who has experienced the systematic things that come up in our justice system, but we want to hear from them. We want to make sure that everything that we do in the space of reentry is tailored towards their need, their experiences, to make sure that we are intentional and that we're restorative in how we do that. We have the opportunity to travel and share best practices around justice and make sure that this is something that, again, is not just happening where we live, but it's beginning to be a movement, and it stays moving across the country. And so we're excited to continue to do the work. This is hard work for us. It's not hard work because it's truly about every resident every day. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson?
Well, second chance to me, and putting emphasis on it this month. I mean, every day is second chance for me. Every month, I work on putting the emphasis and bringing the spotlight to second chance. Being a restored citizen myself and practicing restored justice practices, I make sure that the community is aware where they can fit in at. I educate them about restorative justice. Reentry is the fourth component of restorative justice. So as you establish that circle of support and accountability, you want to make sure that the community and all stakeholders involved are aware of what the offender may need, and that they get out and come together and show them, and so the community can engage in that. We do a lot. We do a lot, which I'll highlight some of our programs when you ask me about them. But second chance to me is every day. Every day I put emphasis on it. That's why when a person asks me, it's like when a person asks me about Thanksgiving and celebrate family. Every day is about family to me. It's about love. It's about embracing and engaging and being memorable of the moments and building the best you can do with that time.
Well, since we're touching a little bit on you being a returned citizen, a restored citizen, Mr. Richardson, would you want to share some of your lived experience and why this month is important to you?
Yeah, sure. Um, you know what? As we doing this panel, this week or this month is kind of like a important to me. It's memorable because this is my 10th year anniversary. I got out in 2014 in April on judicial release. And us highlighting this day and this month, that is very important to me to know that 10 years ago, I was to get out. I was serving a 21-year sentence. And during my incarceration, I had a spiritual transformation where I knew that this couldn't be life, that I had to do something different. And so I decided to change. And so I thought, and I called on my higher power to ask, what can I do to give back? So I started voting change inside the system. I created a program called Higher Learning because at that time, the incarceration rate when it came to individuals with their education was very low. And so me already being a GED and an associate, having associates in hospitality, I said, let me help these youngsters where I can right now and show them how education can help them lead this place. That's one of the key things about education. When you in there, it can help you free your mind and actually navigate yourself to obtain your freedom again. So in 2011, House Bill 132 came into effect where they started allowing violent offenders to apply for judicial release. And along the way, I was the president of Seven Step, where I was able to throw events inside the institution. And one of them events, we did a restorative justice summit where we invited stakeholders from all over Ohio to see that offenders were doing positive things in a pro-social environment. And some of these stakeholders, they stayed with me. Relationships is the key. And along with like, Tim, what can we do? You're doing this. How can we help you? And like I said, when they changed the bill, I said, well, we have three options. We can file for clemency, we can do a post-conviction, or we can do a judicial release. And I was able to obtain my judicial release in 2014. And since then, them stakeholders that I align myself are still involved in some of the programs that we throw today.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Richardson. That's really impactful, honestly. And I believe that, you serve as a testament of what reentry and what's walking that walk and just doing the work that you do now with the community. And that just kind of brings me to what happens after, right? What happens after someone is released. And Director Pride, you mentioned, making data-driven decisions, which is really important. And I know that research shows that people struggle in our systems when they don't have access to meet basic needs. And unfortunately, rearrest is common, like a common outcome after release. Can you tell us about the efforts of the Office of Justice Policy and Programs? I know they have the Rapid Resource Center as a big part of that involvement in the system and how that addresses those needs after people are released.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ferlin. And first, I want to go back first and just thank Tim for his transparency in telling and sharing his story. Sometimes we take the art of storytelling, and especially when it's your own story, I think we often take for granted, right? The reality of it is that he is reentry. He is an example of what reentry looks like, what it can be, what it should be, and what opportunities should be made available, right, to make it possible for more people like Tim. And so I just want to thank you and commend you for the work that you've done, for your journey. And I'm certain that it wasn't an easy one, but it's individuals like you that continue to hold us accountable, that continue to make us push the envelope, because even though Second Chance Month is, celebrated and lifted up in April, it's no different than how I feel about Black History Month. This is every day. This should be
Yes.
It's not categorized to just a month. There are people getting released and returning back to the communities they left every single day. 95% of the individuals that we send away to prison are returning back to their communities, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years, or 30 years from now. And we have an obligation as community to ensure that they are better for it. We can't continue to convict people after they've already been convicted. We can't continue to sentence people after they've already served their time. We have a responsibility that when anyone who's returning back to the homes and the neighborhoods that they left, that we're doing our due diligence to make sure, again, that they're supported based on what they have expressed their need to be, and that we do it intentionally, not transactional. People are not a product. People are not a pilot. They're people, right? And so they need to be a part of the process of what that transformation looks like for them every step of the way. So how the Office of Justice Policy and Programs continues to move the needle in this work is having individuals like Tim at the table, right? Leading the charge. Half of our office is supported by individuals that have lived experiences. They are the subject matter experts, right? There's nothing in a book, right, that can teach you and show you what the experience that Tim just shared with us, what that is, and how to go about it. There are certain things that you, of course, can take from it and put in your toolkit, because we know education is power and it's important, right? But when you're dealing with people and you understand their legacy and their life and their journey, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where the change has to continue to happen in how we make systematic change. So a lot of the programs and services that you mentioned, Perla, with our office, again, is geared on everything that I just stated. We focus on all social determinants of health that impact the quality of life for all people. All of us have social determinants that if they are not intact, if they are not managed, if they are not accessible, if they're not present, make the difference for us between life and death, right? So social determinants of health is where you live, your built environment, your neighborhood, housing, right? Making sure that you have an opportunity for upward mobility, economic mobility through workforce and professional development, making sure there's equitable access to education and other resources, ensuring that your medical care, right, is to a standard in which is equitable across the spectrum. And so we want to make sure in the work that we do, which we cannot do, let me please say, without our community partners. Our Rapid Resource Center, the one that we currently operate out of our jail facility over at Jackson Pike, was a vision that turned into a mission. It turned into reality, and it was something that we realized was a need based on what information our residents were telling us about what they did not have, that they deserve to have, right? Just based on human dignity and respect. And so when an individual is released from the Rapid Resource Center at our jail facility, they leave out of one door and they can walk into another door and be welcomed and greeted by a person who is there to support whatever their need is in that moment. We offer transportation assistance. We offer access to housing, jobs, cognitive, behavioral, mental health support, even hygiene products, right? When I say it's intentional down to the stick of deodorant that you may need when you leave a facility, and what you may not have had when you came into that facility, a place to charge your cell phone, a place to get online and be able to look for those various jobs that I just mentioned, and you have somebody walking with you in doing that. Both the Rapid Resource Center, the one that we have, and the one that is actually, we'll be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony today for our second site, as well as our Safer Station location, which is an addiction recovery walk-in to recovery on our west side of Columbus. For those who have been impacted and on that journey through addiction and recovery. these services and supports are accessible to all. We even have people who are connected to residents who have been incarcerated, family members who can come in and access these services and supports. And we make it tangible by meeting people where they are and helping them navigate that next step. So our team of multidisciplinary folks who can run the gamut of all, things really help support that navigation throughout that person's journey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Director Pop. I think it's important for the people who are watching us live or who will watch us in the future to become familiarized with these programs. I'm sure there's, we can get the word out for anyone who has a family member or a known or like an acquaintance or anyone that they know who have been like justice impacted. So to be able to share those resources. And that brings me to my next point or question. Let's talk about the families and friends of those who have been incarcerated. What do families of those returning from incarceration need access to? And what would make it easier as they transition home?
Tim, I'm gonna let you have that one first.
Well, first and foremost, you got to understand that person coming home is dealing with a nice amount of trauma. Okay, so now they have this opportunity to live in the real world. So you have to exercise patience and love with that loved one because that person has a lot of anxiety, and the number one thing in their mind, they don't want to fail. They don't want to fail. So just be there on their side to let them know, like, it's okay. We got you. All right. And a lot of times, men and women, especially if they alpha male or they got these strong personalities and they believe that they have to be in a certain position to provide, you have to be aware of that and let them know that it's okay. You don't have to force anything. And knowing that before they get there, that family member or that loved one can take the initiative to help them with employment. Employment and housing is like the number one obstacle to an offender when they get out. I mean, even now, you got some offenders that have been out 5, 6 years that have careers, and housing is an obstacle. They have already done their time. Now they're being productive. So why are they being punished again? These are collateral sanctions that we need to talk about. And again, employment. This, you mark it on the box. Y'all tell us, okay, you mark that box, you let them know. And then we had this this initiative back 2 or 3 years ago where they made legislation where they took that off and said, okay, employees can't discriminate. So they thought a way around it. They tell you, they get you in an interview and you don't mark that, but then they ask you, have you ever been convicted of a felon? And they use that against you. So, but as a family, you have to be there for that woman, let them know it's okay. It's okay, because now that they didn't got the opportunity, one of the things they feel that they want to contribute, but let them know just them being there is a contribution. Just being able to have you here to hear your input in what we want to do as a family, that is invaluable now that you're here. Knowing that we can have you and we can rely on you, talk, that we ain't got to wait on a phone call. So I also tell the offenders, because a part of that is the accountability on their part too. And that's the first component of restorative justice. You have to be accountable for yourself. And that means you making amends, being mindful of what you've done, you yourself, you made that choice. And so I let them know. I go into prisons, I go into prisons now. We go teach a family program called CLFC. And I let them know the first part of your recovery, of your transformation starts here. So if you're saying you change, you need to act as if you're free now. So we start with our icebreaker. I have to let them know that you are not what you've been through, but what you've overcome. Your past is not your identity. Your behavior do not define you. It's also your preparation. So I let them know every day and what they're doing, because some of them, sometimes it ain't even sometimes. If you've been conditioned a certain way, since she was 13 and 12. It's sometimes it's a war. It's a war going out there in them streets. So we have conditioned ourselves to survive. We got this discernment. Now all of a sudden we're trying to transition into this change and go out in the real world and live life on life terms. It's a lot of trauma that we deal with. And I have to let them know, which I have made it a point. I have made it a point now when I go out and I go speak, I talk to other stakeholders, these speaking engagement, I let them know what ACE is, adverse child effect. We have suffered from at least 6 or 7 of these elements in adverse child effects. So I tell the offender, you need to get help now. Don't let that stigma, or you know how they say in the church, oh, we don't do mental health. Well, okay, you're gonna find yourself under a light post somewhere talking about, hey, can I get a ride? Because this is real. This is real. This is real stuff. I'm saying, and I deal with it every day. Like yesterday, we went in there with the Frederick Douglass Foundation, and we was talking to a youngster, and youngster was 21. This youngster had already accumulated 2 bodies. He had do juvenile life. Now he was in the adult correctional doing life. And this youngster was educated, but he's been out in the streets and he was so numb. And I was like, youngster, I can understand where you're coming from. The fact that you are in this program tells me that you want to change. You're going through something within yourself. You're fighting the wolf within. And I'm letting you know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to do something different. But if you ain't doing that today and acting as if you free today, then I'm telling you, your odds of you making that transition and staying free is very low. It's very low. And so when you say, what can the family do? Like I said, is be patient, align yourself with organizations such as us. We educate the family. I put restorative justice practice first. I work with ex-offenders all the time to highlight them. Some of the programs that we do, we hire the ex-offenders to do community work, to show the community that they too want to give back. And we incorporate the families that let them attend. We do a lot. And when we're serving the community, we let the stakeholders know, we educate the community about some of the practice, some of the people that are out here vendoring, to let them know the services that they have. And I want to make sure that some of the vendors, or the vendors that come through, that they are authentic. Because a lot of times these services that we have, we gotta keep it real. Some of these people ain't living up to what they say they're gonna do. And exactly. I'm a stickler for that. And if you ain't about saying you providing that, then we don't want you at the table. Because I don't want my people to think, hey, you condoning? Nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. You got to be real, because you have a lot of people that get let down. And then again, that's triggering. That's their trauma. And that's why they don't believe. It's just like when we tell the person to get out the vote. We say, hey, you want to get out? And our people be like, oh, they ain't helping nobody. But they just don't know how powerful their vote counts when it comes to local policies. This is where you build from. So, that's what we do. That's what UMADA do when it comes to engaging with families. And we start before they even get out here. We start in there.
Awesome. And I just something that Tim said that I think is incredibly important when you're talking about family, right? First of all, we know that for individual, when you're talking about things like ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, and we talk about mental health, and we talk about the impact of the trauma on a person that has lost their freedom, right? The depths of devastation of that, like the where you have to be in life as an individual for that to be the place in which you find yourself, speaks to a level of things that are already happening, right? That went unaddressed, that went unnoticed, that went unrecognized. And that now has created some actions and inactions, right? That has impacted the decision-making of a person, that has impacted the way in which they operate in their environment, right? And the things that has oppressed them and depressed them, right? To a state in which they may find themselves. But we know that freedom starts with the mind first. So I love, Tim, that you said that even if you are truly focused on a new path, right? A person who may be transitioning out of incarceration, if you're focused on a new path, the freedom starts in the mind, right? Believing and seeing something different than what you had seen and believed before. It's a transformation that takes place, and it's individualistic, right? Everybody's aha moment, everybody's epiphany is different, right? That's in
Yes.
life in general, right? Everybody gets to a different place based on when it's their time to be able to see it, understand it. There's a level of maturation that has to happen. There's so many levels and layers, right? To a person getting to from where they are to where they desire to be. And so when you're talking about family, one of the things that I spent in my educational studies a long time focused in on restorative practices and restorative justice, right? And what it really boils down to is to be able to see an individual as they are, not what you think they should be, right? I always say how you see people is truly how you serve people. If I see you as less, I'm inevitably subconsciously going to give you less. If I see you as more, if I see you for the value that you hold and the value that you have, I'm going to give you that level of value and worth. And so we have to change our lens, right? As system practitioners, as folks who are making these decisions, right? We have to be more clear in our vision of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and for whom, because you're not just incarcerating a person, you incarcerate a family. Every time a mother is put into prison, her family is imprisoned. Every time a father is put into prison, their children, their family is imprisoned. And so what we understand about disproportionate minority contact and the reality that it is more of us who are Black and brown that are incarcerated than any other race, right? There's a lot of Black family systems, right, that are broken because of the impact of incarceration, right? The impact of that discord and what it creates. And so what we realized in our work was the young people, as Tim talked about, that young man that had now had to perform, he had to really create for himself, it sounds like, an armor of survival. So you couldn't even penetrate, right, initially, that which he had to create to protect himself. And oftentimes when people do that, it's because they never had protection to begin with. So if no one else is going to do it for me, by nature, by nurture, I'm going to create it for myself. And so the first part of my career was spent working with young people. And what I can tell you is that when we realized that, wait a minute, as we're working with this adult, we got to make the connection and continuity for the family, is when we began to launch our Youth of Incarcerated Parents initiative. Because what we identified was that through our court process, through our court systems, we ask an individual 50 different questions before we get ready to take their freedom, but we never stop to ask, do you have children? Who are you leaving behind? Because I'm about to send you away for X period of time. Who's the caregiver that's responsible for this child or children that are left behind? Who and what is going to happen to that family system? So we took this idea to our Common Police Court, and in collaboration with our Job and Family Services Family Stabilization Unit, we deployed specialists we used one courtroom to kind of begin to build this out. Shout out and thanks to Judge Jiza Page as being that support for us in launching this Youth of Incarcerated Parents, because she too wanted to be able to offer some wraparound, right? Something to the family. Now that this individual has to do what has to be done, the family though shouldn't be left to suffer and have to then potentially see an intergenerational cycle start to happen because of what wasn't done on the forefront, right? By the time a person gets to our justice system, we're already late. That's what I need to understand. Like by the time an individual enters into our justice system and begins to go through that sequential intercept mapping from contact with police to the jail to focusing on what their time may look like, if at all, or what other sanctions may happen, we're slowly behind and falling further behind the further through that system that they go. And so at this intercept, we wanted to say, hey, at sentencing, we need to know who mama is, who is grandmama, who is auntie, who is uncle that may be responsible for this child. What we realized is that through our data, that approximately 64% of those left behind to care for a child post-incarceration was Black mothers. The remaining was grandmothers, right? So we then said to say, okay, now based on the data, we know where the impact is. And how do we wrap around that family system to make sure that mom has access to job opportunities that are going to now have her in a position where she's better to sustain and support her family, right? What does grandmother need? So we linked with our Franklin County Office on Aging, because we understood that this is a real thing that they too service every day, which is grandparents that are taking care of grandchildren. And this number is growing. As our aging population is growing, the amount of our seniors that have little people, right, to care for is growing too. And so we wanted to be intentional of basically slowing the court process down long enough to just ask, is there a child? Is there somebody that's going to suffer if we don't have what we need to have in place to make sure that they are better for it? One of the things I said when I first met Tim, we were in a session at Columbus State, and he was on another panel. As he does.
Yeah.
And he is as phenomenal as he is. I was like, oh my God, like how did I not already come across the path of this amazing man, right? But we had a follow-up conversation afterwards. But during the time of the panel, when I think about our youth, when I think about the things that if we don't get in front of now, right? I always say that this is something that if we don't address it now, if we don't do what we need to do as change makers, practitioners, system partners, community partners, as families, we leave the next generation for the Goliaths that we were supposed to slay, the ones that we were supposed to dismantle, the things that we were supposed to disrupt and interrupt. We then create this path, right, that a child now has to try to figure it out. And we know what that can turn out to be if the right things are not put in place. So it is so critical when we talk about the family, the youth. One last thing that I'll mention about the importance of that is there is an international model known as family group decision-making. That is a restorative practice that allows families the opportunity to prepare and plan with a resident before at least a year before they are getting ready to transition back into community. And it galvanizes everybody who's going to be in that immediate circle for that individual to ensure that they have everything in place, right? From the mental health and social emotional that is necessary, right? To begin to rebuild and reframe their brain, to making sure that just access to employment is already set up, right? This allows the family to come around with everybody who's going to be involved in that individual's life, and they start to plan and prepare prior to their release. And so this is something that as our relationships continue to blossom with the State Department of Corrections and some of the amazing work that they've begun to do and have been doing in this space of pre-release planning and making sure that a person is better for it, that is what's going to move the needle from reentry to true reintegration back into community, and it be a success.
Thank you so much for that. That's so impactful. Go ahead, Mr. Richardson.
I just wanted, can I?
Yeah.
No, it was funny when Rochelle just brought that up, how we met. This is how we met. This question that you asked, they asked me this at the panel at Columbus State, and how I gave a real answer. It was unfiltered, and she was in the back seat. She was like, "Who is this person?" And right after that, because cultural competency and prevention is very important. Mm-hmm. Knowing your audience, knowing your people, mm-hmm. meeting them where they at. And these people was just asking, they asked this question about what families could do more. And I gave them a realistic answer, which is the same answer I just gave you about how can families assist, how can we help with housing, mm-hmm. all. And I kept it real with them to let them know, mm-hmm. because sometimes they don't know that we have these extra barriers that we're dealing with, and they think mm-hmm. like it's just a smooth transition, and it's not. It's not. That's just like they have this certificate for employability that was signed in for employers to recognize as a bonding like insurance, mm-hmm. knowing that the state will ensure that if you employ us, you get this amount of tax incentive write-off and insuring us. And these employers, they don't recognize that. They don't recognize that. And you got people that want to work. I'm dealing with a young man right now that did 33 years. 33 years. 33 years. And they give him superficial little commercial jobs. I've been working with him since day one, since he got out. And I'm still trying to get him employment. I'm talking about a real job, because that's all he want to do. Not no temporary job, not no seasonal job. He want a job. He want something with a trade, because that's all he want to do, so he can provide and have his own place. And it's challenging. It's challenging. Yeah. And so it's real out here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just touching a little bit on what Director Pai said, it's just not only the fact that probably he has been incarcerated or that people have been incarcerated, it's race, it's background, it's all of these things combined. Mm-hmm. Justice is a privilege reserved for the few. And a lot of people don't get that.
Not at all. They don't. And I think we got to be more intentional to prevent and not react, right? Like we're so reactive, right? And the goal is to become more proactive. And how do we help people heal? How do we get people to a place to where, because I don't have, again, all my social determinants intact, right? My quality of life is suffering. So I get to a place where I'm so low, where my decision making and how I end up in certain situations with people, places, and things, right, could cost me my freedom because of what survival mode or what conditions of my environment, right, have created for me. And if I don't have the aptitude, if I don't have the awareness, if I don't have the innate desire to simply say, you know what, there is another opportunity, there is a different way, right? The goal is initially to divert. The best reentry is no entry at all, right? When we talk about decarceration and trying to, right, lower the numbers, not continue to see them, grow by leaps and bounds, mass incarceration is a real thing, right? And it's completely impacting those marginalized communities in a way that if we don't get in its way, right, it's going to continue to create things that it's going to take us longer to come back from. And again, for those that are impacted, those who have been involved, those who have continued to struggle, 33 years to come out, and imagine how much has changed for him, right? Like, that's what I think about Tim. Like, technology changes every 5 to 7. I'm trying to keep up. And 33 years, you better believe right? It.
They had beepers back then.
Yes. And so you're trying to come out and you like, what? You want me? Like, we gotta be able to make sure that we're not, again, seeing people as property. That is a part of our history, unfortunately. But when we see people as property, we assume that when we put them away somewhere at whatever facility in the middle of nowhere, that it's lock the door, throw away the key, they're there, and you're warehousing people, right? The goal is to truly rehabilitate, not watch people deteriorate, right? And that's where I appreciate some of the things that have happened, from legislation to programs to practice to systematic change, right? That has happened to make sure that we are doing more, because we have the obligation to do more. We simply do. And I think that for me has been the crux of why we are so passionate in the world of justice policy and programs, and with our community, our criminal justice planning board, with our reentry advisory board, and those that have all of the boots on the ground things going on, right? To be a better service. This is why we're so passionate about it, because it has the ability to change or derail someone's life. And so programs are great. Tim, I say I love programs. Well, programs are meant to be a kickstart to a practice, the stuff we should be doing, because that's what we should be doing anyway, right? And that way we can drive policy and practice change. Right now, I think the last that I looked, around 2018, 2019, Ohio has over 850 collateral sanctions. Over 850 things, policies, processes, laws that are written in to prohibit a person from truly being able to overcome and be able to move forward with their life, even after time is served. My fines are paid. My sanctions have been fulfilled, right? So we just got to do a lot more of the policy and practice work, in making sure we are interrupting and disrupting things of that nature as well.
Ms. Pride, Ohio has 2,800.
I knew we'd have grown, because that was 2019, 2018. So I know it's gotten worse since then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2,800 collateral sanctions.
Yeah.
And the United States, and the United States as a whole has 48,000.
So that's 48,000 roadblocks is what I see that as. That would further cause someone who has already been convicted to continue to have to serve their time. And it's another sentence on top of a sentence that has already been served. Those numbers are staggering. And the fact that it continues to be more, we're talking about within 5 years. That was 5 years ago. And now we are now in the 2000s.
Yes.
And there's such a lack of understanding that we are all implicated when we allow people to be mistreated, right? Like, this affects not just them. And I think that that's also an issue, right? We are just so far removed, or we want to be so far removed sometimes from like, oh, this does not affect me. I don't have anyone in my family, or I don't know anyone who has been incarcerated. but what do you know about the effect, even
Mhm.
when you think that it has no effect to you? One, each of us is more, I mean, and I'm quoting Brian Stevenson because I love this quote, and it's each
Yes.
of us is more than the worst thing that we've ever done, right? And why can we extend those? We can say that, but why can't we extend that grace to and say, there's, my community is affected by this, the people in my community, the people in my circle are affected by this. Can we do more of it?
Mhm.
And why can we like change our perspective, right? When even using language around people who have been incarcerated, we're, just using words like felons and they're trying to like just you can change
Mhm.
your language and that makes a huge difference sometimes because you're removing that stigma from people. Um, well, when touching that subject, can you tell me a little bit about what the general public can do? People who may not work in this space or be in this fields to promote second chances and participate in second chance, not this everyone.
Mhm. Tim, you got
What
it.
was the question again? What was the question again?
Um, what can we do as a general public for people who may not work in this space or be in this field or who have not been touched by the justice system in any way to promote second chances and participate in Second Chance Month, and not just this month, but every month?
Oh, I said this earlier. Become engaged.
Mhm.
When you see something that you're not familiar with and you ask and it's talking about second chances or it's talking about restorative justice, become engaged. Go, listen. And when I say listen, I'm talking about active listening.
Mhm.
Don't get caught up in the narrative with social media or story. Go see for yourself. That's why we throw programs all throughout the year, highlighting restorative justice practice.
Mhm.
Uh, Today, what UMADA has done for Second Chance Month, we have kicked off this initiative, this campaign calling Reclaim Your Time, you know,
Mhm.
and it's about being accountable, reclaim your time. And on the back, it has the African symbol that represents freedom,
Mhm.
Mm.
That's
you
beautiful.
know, and a part of that is being accountable. But every year, every year in August, we do the program called Tree of Life. This is
Mhm.
this program represents a day of healing, a day to recognize those that suffer from a senseless act of gun violence.
Mhm.
We incorporate all the elements of our culture, all the elements. We have restored citizens there. We serve, it's like a big old barbecue, community barbecue. And we serve the community chicken, steak, macaroni and cheese, green beans. We let the kids play
Mhm.
and bouncy houses. We just incorporated a youth event, basketball tournament with juvies from James Turner that just got out, which I've been assisting and mentoring and showing how he can engage with the community to uplift his program. But we meet the people where they're at. This year, we're doing it at Driving Park. And Tree of Life is one big program where we come together as a family. And if you have any questions on what you just asked, Ms. Martinez, on how can we assist, those people are in place to assist you there at the
Mhm.
Tree of Life. We
Mhm.
serve the family, we serve the communities, we embrace mother or murdered children, these mothers that are suffering from a great
Mhm.
tragedy.
Mhm.
So we offer them a place of healing so they can be there and let them know that we are there with them in solidarity. Because we might not have been directly involved with their situation, but our lifestyle have once contributed to them suffering from the tragedy that they incurred today.
Yep.
So it's our responsibility today to let them know that we care, we love you, and we are here for you. That's what we do on the Tree of Life. So you have restored citizens serving. We got ice cream. We have our shirts out there, our merch on Stop the Violence, all that. And we work with the CPD. We ask any vendor, we ask departments like Ms. Pride that's over it Here's what you can do. And this is one thing I like, what I love about Miss Pride when I met her and still do today. She means what she says. She came once we met. Since then, she been on me. What are y'all doing? Where you at? How can we get up? What can we do to assist you? That's what restorative justice is. She's an ally. She ain't trying to tell me what to do. Well, I think you should do it like this. We don't need nobody like that. We want somebody like her saying, okay, how can I assist you? That's sincere. That's being authentic. And then offering input. Well, this is how you could do this to make it a little bit more effective or impact. That's just my suggestion. But I'm here just to help you. How can I assist you? That's restorative justice. That's what we do every year. And then we have another program. We have another program we do for Christmas to serve children of incarcerated parents. And it's called The Gift. Last year, we served over 200 families. We made sure that them families had a Christmas. We served them kids, and we think outside the box. I forgot to mention this. Every year, everybody do the going back to school book bag drive. All right. We know our families. We know our families. That's why cultural competency is important. And this ain't just black and brown. This has to do with the have-nots. We got a lot of people that are poor out here that are suffering. We got a lot of people out here. So and if you are involved in pro-social programs like ours, we started the Walking Confident campaign. The Walking Confident, we wanted to push it a little further. We help them parents get their kids a pair of shoes. So we do our drive, like the proceeds. If you support us and donate and get you a shirt, these proceeds go towards that program. We help these kids get a pair of shoes. Buster Douglas come on out. He come out. And some people even asked me, they was like, all you asked is for Buster Douglas just to come out. You ain't asked for this or that. I said, no, you don't understand. That ain't what my heart. I'm not looking for anything tangible. I just wanted him to take a picture with the kids. So that time, some of the kids don't even know who Buster Douglas is. That's okay. But that legacy, that importance, knowing he was like, because he asked me, he was like, y'all do what? You do this? He said, where you want me to be? What you want me to do? Yeah. And he was there. He'd been there every year just to take a picture with the youth and to help get the people to come out to support the event. And as we speak now, if y'all want to know, we're doing it again August 10th at Driving Park Recreation Center, the Tree of Life, and it's growing.
Yes. Amazing. And I'm gonna be there because I told them we're gonna be there or be square. We try to make sure that we galvanize all folks that, as Tim said, can be there to support, because that's the heartbeat. Like, that is what everything Tim just said is the heartbeat of how those who are, whether you're impacted, never been impacted, don't have a clue, aren't sure, ask and engage. Ask and engage. Yes. Don't assume. Ask and then engage. Because if you, I was at, like Tim, I spend a lot of time at our institutions, right? It's one of the favorite parts of my job is to really interface and connect with residents, right? That are walking this walk and are on this journey, right? And one of the things that going into the institution has shown me, right, and listening to the words that the individuals have shared as it relates to their own experiences, is the understanding that there is a pathway that they have to be able to navigate, right? And we got to do it locking arms. We got to be able to do it together. There is so much change that needs to happen. There is so much impact that needs to happen. And if people feel we continue to work in silos, if we continue to say, well, I'm over here doing this while you over there doing that, who are we hurting? And who are we really helping, right? For collective impact to be a thing, right? We have got to do these things together. And one of the things that one of the young ladies said here recently when I was at ORW, she said, one of the biggest fallacies and fables and fairy tales is that people have never been involved with the system, think the system is working exactly the way it's supposed to. They don't see anything so when we're talking about reentry, when we're talking about the things that, yes, we're doing, we've come a long way, but it's still a lot more ways to go. It's the understanding that, well, if I mean, the criminal justice system, that's just fine. I mean, I've not been impacted. I've not been anywhere involved. So I assume that it's doing everything the right way and it's just and it's fair and it's equitable at all times. Unfortunately, that is not the truth. And so ask and engage, because you will begin to learn, you will begin to educate yourself, you'll be able to raise awareness and be able to, for at least for a moment in time, be able to stand and lock arms with an individual and be able to learn some things and become more aware of some things that your own lived experiences may not have shown you, may not have taught you, right? But that is, to me, the best way and the best thing that our community could do in that way, Perla, is just simply ask and engage and be intentional and be present. If you're going to say you do it, do it. Like,
do it.
And if not, it's okay. Because I don't lose nothing if you don't say nothing, right? I don't lose nothing if you don't say nothing. But if you're going to do it, do it. If you say it, mean it, right? And then we move forward together.
Yeah, because I done dealt with a lot of that where they say they're gonna do it, they ain't done it. And I don't take it personally. I keep it moving. We keep it moving.
You have to. You have to. You have to.
I'm gonna thank you both for those answers. I'm gonna take us back a little bit. Did have a question in the chat. Someone wanted you to explain what collateral sanctions are. Those that don't know, please.
Sam, I'm gonna let you take that because my breath is still gone from the doubled and triple numbers that did happen in the last 5 years. But can you talk about, because you yourself have experienced it, so I think you are best suited to answer that question.
Well, collateral sanction is like when I use the two example with employment and housing, where they refer to your background because you've been convicted of a felony, and that has deprived you of the chance to get that job, or that has deprived you of the chance to get that house. That's what collateral sanction is. In some states, they don't even allow you to vote because you've been convicted of a felony. Here in Ohio, thank God that they don't practice them Dragonton laws. You know, they do allow us to vote, but them are collateral sanctions. Another collateral sanction is where you've been going to school inside there, and you want to further your education, where some things they say you can't get, like being a real estate broker or being a doctor. You can't become that because you have a felony. Them are collateral sanctions.
Or your inability to become an entrepreneur and start your own business, to be able to, again, create wealth and economic mobility for yourself and others, right? Based on your classification of offense. That could be another thing that you're prohibited to do for a set period of time or indefinitely, again, depending on what it is that endeavor entails. And that keeps people from being able to truly move the needle without having to jump a hurdle in order to do so. And so, these are legal penalties, disabilities, or disadvantages, right, that individuals face even after the fact. It becomes now the aftermath. It becomes the second sentence that they're now serving. Even being back home, even being in community, even being in a position where they want to be able to do better and do more for themselves and for their families, they are blocked oftentimes by these legalities that create a disadvantage.
And not just thinking about those numbers, it's just really upsetting. But as we move together as a county around second chances, and in order to start closing this out, what would you like for our focus to be? Where can we evolve or expand as a county to really unify around providing second chances for individuals?
Well, one thing I do want to say, as a restored citizen, we're not looking for no handouts. We're just looking for a fair shot. What the law says we were supposed to do. We are not our behavior. All right. So now, as we get out here to live life on life terms, allow us to live that with the equal opportunity that you are living it, so we can be a contributing factor in a way that we can take care of our families, in a way that we can take our kids out, get them involved in programs that we can afford, so we can have the opportunity if our child is showing, if our child is showing us that they are exhibiting behavior from the trauma of us being gone, abandonment, where we can reach out and go get that child some counseling. You know, that's what we ask. You know, when you talk about reentry, remember there's 4 components to restorative justice. Reentry is the last one. It's a process. And I'm speaking towards, because I'm a stickler for accountability. If I haven't done it myself, then I don't expect anything in return. And I'll tell the guys when I go in there, if you can't be accountable for your actions,
yes,
and admit the harm that you have done to the community or those that it has impacted, then get out of here. Get out of here. You're making excuses. You're making excuses. Now, if that individual is showing accountable, man or woman, and they saying, I want a chance, and they have shown that they're remorseful about what they've done, and they have exhibited that in there, that's just like every year when a person goes up for parole, when they're eligible for parole, they have took accountability for that they have done. But every time when they go in that room, the majority of them, they are judged by the nature of the crime. And that person then experience, again, trauma. So now we're talking about here today, getting out. I mean, you got a lot of unsung heroes out here that's not looking for any accolades. That's what Restore Citizens doing that part. You know, you got, I mean, he's like a brother to me, One Way Barbershop. You got Shotty that's out there working with the youth, that's doing football leagues with the kids, raising money to get them helmets and get them shoulder pads. You got a lot of people out here that's doing the work. You just don't hear about it. But at the same time, they do experience collateral sanctions. So we just ask again that you listen and you engage. When you see a program or a person come and you see that they're doing that, engage. Listen and see how you can assist to help them, because again, they just want to help. All they're doing is giving back. That's how they can help.
That's amazing. I think Tim summed it up, Perla. I mean, our new tagline is listen, ask, and engage. Listen and ask and engage, and make sure that in your engagement that you're engaging the right people along the way. There's so much work to be done, right? And again, we've come a long way. We understand that this is an individualistic experience because every person is at a different point in their journey, right? Whether it's from incarceration, whether it's prior justice involvement in other ways, like everyone is at a different intercept. They're at a different place. And the reality of it is that, again, that accountability is huge. Accountability is huge. And it starts with relationships and accountability as you build those relationships. And that's what we have to begin to do, I think, as a collective: invest more into our communities, invest more time, more access, more, opportunities. Just pure opportunities, right? That individuals who are ready, like Tim said, who are ready, set, go, right? They've identified, been accountable for the things that they've done, seen and unseen, right? And where they are in this moment, and them having an opportunity, because this is the whole premise around reentry. We want people to come back to the communities ready and better for it. But if we don't create the pathway to do so, it's an oxymoron, right? They have to start and do their own work. Like the internal work is theirs to do, and we can support that. But ultimately, as community, we have an obligation. We have something that we have to make sure that we uphold. And that's ensuring that every resident, every day, has the same equity and ability, right, based on their individual situation, to access what it is they need to be better. And we have a responsibility to make that happen.
And I want to give a shout out to Judge Munson, Cheryl Munson over at the Common Pleas Court, because she does a great job in assisting restored citizens and coming up and being a partner with the Rise Court, because she does ask and she listens and she engaged.
Yes. So many shout outs. We have so many powerful leaders, leaders in the county, outside of the county, from our Board of Commissioners to county administration to our judges, to all of those who are doing this work every day from whichever lane they sit in. Everybody got a lane. Everybody got a lane to travel. And if you stay in your own lane, won't be no accidents. But boy, we got to be able to come together. Once we part, we got to come together and make sure that we are doing this and making it make sense for everybody involved. So we are. I thank you for that, Tim. We cannot thank our leadership.
I thank you, Ms. Pride, and I thank you, Ms. Martinez, for allowing me to hold this space with you. because you do the work, and it was a great opportunity. I'll look forward to working with you in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, thank you both for being here, for being part of this Lunch and Learn. And the community is engaged, they're active, they're listening right now. So I'm hoping that we can stay that way. This Lunch and Learn will be on the Commissioner's Facebook page. And for anyone that wants to rewatch it, watch it again, or invite someone to watch it for the first time, it will be uploaded to YouTube as well. And we look forward to continue working with you, Mr. Richardson. And as always, a pleasure, Director Clyde. But thank you both.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And y'all owe me a lunch.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Y'all
we
take
do.
care.
Yes.
All right, bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.